Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who is legitimately afraid that at one point on this video I'm going to break down in tears. I actually have my box of tissues here just in case. I don't usually do that, but this album, Home Movies by Lucy Dacus, is so powerful that it might happen. And I'm just gonna let it happen, you know? If that happens, it happens. I don't edit my shows. I try to have them go in one take, so we'll see. You'll notice I said Lucy Dacus, and I had a little break. I don't know if I'm supposed to pronounce it Dacus or Dacus. I don't know that much about Lucy Dacus. This is the first time I've ever heard her voice to my knowledge. Apparently, there is a supergroup with her, Julian Baker and Phoebe D. Bridgers, but you know, there's a long period of time where I wasn't paying attention to music, so I don't know that group. They sound like a less insufferable version of Monsters of Folk, a group which I know a little bit about. But what's interesting is, you know, I have reviewed the album of Phoebe Bridgers, which I liked. I then reviewed the album by Julian Baker, which I reviewed and liked more. And then we have this, which I like even more than the other two. Although I don't think this is some kind of competition. Feel free to rank them if you want, because that always gets me more comments in the comment section. But what I think I like about this album is just that I related to it so much. I really felt so much truth in it. And primarily what I liked about it, beyond the music, which I'll get to soon, are these two themes which really feel to dominate the entire album. One of them is that of going back home as a young adult. According to what brief research I did, she's like 26 years old, and I'm fascinated when musicians make music at this time, in their early 20s, when they go back home, when they see the things that they used to see as a child, as an adult. It is a very rich ground, it's a very rich place to mine thoughts. I mean, just in the last year, we had the microphones in 2020. That album is largely about that. The excellent Adrienne Lenker album is mostly about that, you know, standing in the front yard, thinking about your past. And even a lot of Taylor Swift's albums, you know, I think in particular Folklore, is about the same basic idea. This is a very rich place for good artists to go, because they can look backwards and sort of sympathize with themselves, they can relate to their own innocence, they can relate to their own corruption, they can do all these sort of things that make for interesting art and aren't cheap. You know, it's not just like a love story or a story about partying. It's this real like connection to youth. And at best, it allows for a certain amount of compassion, like the compassion that one feels toward one's younger self. That's a theme which often makes me cry, but I'm not going to cry yet. Although I just gave a name of a bunch of different albums that I liked a lot, probably the one this reminds me the most of is one of my favorite albums that I have ever reviewed. We're talking top 10 albums I've ever reviewed, and I've reviewed a couple hundred. The album Phoenix by Pedro the Lion. If you don't know this album, I really suggest you get to know it. It's the first Pedro the Lion album I ever even listened to, so it's not like I'm some big super fan. But in a similar way, this Home Movies and Pedro the Lion, like they do a similar thing of sort of mythologizing your past, but mythologizing your past in a very humanist way, where you look at your weaknesses and the weaknesses of the people around you, and the whole thing has this great bittersweet feeling. It partly feels like it's about youth, and both albums actually share a commonality of growing up in a very religious household and then growing up to be not very religious, and it has this whole connected universal feeling. It's sadness, but it's not the sadness of heartbreak. It's often the sadness of compassion. So, you know, I am a professor of French. I think a lot about language. And one of my favorite things to teach is a thing which a lot of people know, but needs to be emphasized. Compassion means to suffer with somebody, right? Passion means suffer, come is the prefix, which means with. So compassion, feeling for somebody else, is literally suffering. And this album is able to give you that feeling of suffering. It is not really about her, it is about her compassion for other people. That's what gives it such an amazing emotional resonance. She's not saying, I'm sitting at home and my parents suck. It's sort of like, I remember talking to you and your parents suck. There is an amazing power in that she's able to mine in here. I was working on kind of a pet theory that there is nobody else. I think you could read this album. This is not, I don't actually believe in this theory, but it shows the strength of the writing. You could imagine another world in which there is no other person, that every person she sings about, be it man or woman, is actually herself. And that, because she's sort of playing like the role of like a kind ghost or something, you know, or like an imaginary best friend. She's just sort of floating through all these memories and talking to these people and being a shoulder for them to cry on and a thigh for their fingers to dig into. But you sort of get the sense that maybe she doesn't even exist at all. She does, of course. I mean, it's very clear this is all based on real life and real people that she knows. But I do think there's a strength in that. The other theme, which is not related, but I think is an important one, is the curse of mediocre men and their power. Mediocre men wield most of the power in the world, right? I mean, unfairly, the world is dominated by men, and most of the men who are in those positions of power are terribly mediocre. And somehow, this whole kind of theme, sorry, Toby's barking in the background. Toby, there's no mediocre men outside. Please stop barking. Somehow that ends up being this theme that is an undercurrent as she remembers her past so clearly. Paired with this is multiple depictions of like ethereal, divine women or girls, because she's remembering her past when she was younger. Just these sort of put upon girls and women who have to deal with this world of mediocre men. And to be clear, I do not consider myself exempt from this. I do consider myself to be a good person, a good man. But this album, at times, helped me to understand the ways in which I was an oppressive, mediocre man. We'll get to that soon. Musically, okay, it's like, there's no way for me to describe, you know what? It's a lot like Pedro the Lion. Not in the way that it sounds, but in the way that there's no thing, right? I can't say like, this is a sweet synth, dream pop, retro, hyper, whatever. There's no like genre that I'm gonna throw you into. It's rock and roll, it's mostly guitar led, a little bit of piano. None of it is affect, but none of it is bland. There's nothing that like sticks out or that you can use to define, but also there's nothing that like makes it boring. Her voice is a great example. Her voice is low, engaging, but there's no affect to it. She's not doing like rah, 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 any of that kind of stuff, but you're never bored by it. She's not smoky, not sexy, not sultry, but also just never boring. And that's what this music is like. And that sounds like an insult. It sounds like damning with faint praise, but I'm actually just praising it with faint praise. The music is exactly good enough to support these amazing lyrics. And I don't think it should actually be better. A name that kept popping up, one of my favorite musicians, is Neil Young. I think it's a similar way. And they don't sound the same, but what I mean is that like, the music doesn't have to be more engaging. Like if you're in it, if you're relating to the music, you're relating to the lyrics, it doesn't actually have to be better. So let me give you a stamp. I'm not going to go with the song that makes me cry. I wonder if you know the album. Do you know the song that's going to make me cry? You may or may not. My stamp is going to be VBS. That's my homework. If you don't know my channel, I give an assignment. I make you leave my video to go watch and go listen to one of the songs, so you know what I'm talking about. I'll put a link to it up there, okay? It's just a beautiful, poetic song. It's about like sexuality, it's about like faith and religion. It's about like, it's got great dynamism to it in the music. It's sort of a song about summer love. Now, if you don't know, VBS stands for Vacation Bible, is it VBS? Vacation Bible Study? Vacation Bible Service? Some kind of vacation Bible camp, right? Is it VBC? It might even be VBC. I don't even know what the title of the song is anymore. It doesn't really matter. What matters is this world that she's able to put us into, right? We're already like a vacation Bible camp. You're sort of sitting there and you're sort of imagining what that's like. Like, what is life like in super Christian America? One of the great mediocre men in the album is just briefly described. A preacher in a t-shirt told me I could be a leader. beautifully written. It just sort of says everything. The way religion is depicted here is never mocked. It's also never let off the hook. It's not like a target. It's just a sort of part of this backdrop, this sort of banal Christianity that seems to be all around her, describing the religious services as having your hands up in the air. I've gone to a lot of church in my life, and every once in a while, once actually, I ended up in one of those churches where people pray like this, and it was like, I really felt like I was in a zombie movie, and like I had to get out. And I'm not making fun of church. Like if that's how you want to pray, go for it. I just didn't know where I was going. I was led into this church, and I was like, I'll just try it out because it's local. And then all of a sudden, I just see all this going on the whole time. And I'm like, anyways, that ended up being oddly offensive. But I didn't mean it that way. The lyrics here are just so beautiful. And what it turns out the song is about this love. Now, it's been kind of funny, right? Because I intentionally don't do a lot of research before I do these videos. I try to just stay focused on the music and the words, and I try to just know the minimal amount that I can about the artist. And this has often had a funny effect of where the sexuality of the singers that I'm talking about isn't known to me, and I don't think it's that important. So I reviewed the entire Marika Hackman album, having no idea that she was famous in the gay community, or that she was that it was a very, very important gay album. Same thing with St. Vincent. I had no idea. I actually only found out later when I was reading Entertainment Weekly that my daughter and I like to read together. You know, that was the only time I know. So I'm now just guarded, and I now just assume that every song could be about a boy or a girl, no matter what I'm listening to. So this song, it felt to me like it was a summertime camp song where she was falling in love with somebody who was in her cabin with her. Based on my limited amount of research, it turns out it is about a boy. And I think that's maybe the strength about all of this, and part of the reason why it's not worth doing the research. Because who really cares? The song totally tracks and totally reads either way. But the way that it's described is like, basically she's in love with kind of like a bad boy. Or, as I thought initially, with a bad girl. Like somebody who does something as stupid as snorting nutmeg. And she's like in this camp, and she's falling in love. But what's important is he's not dragging her down. She's trying to pull him up. And as somebody who has several times in the past, thankfully not currently, fallen victim to the desire to save people with my love, as kind of a savior complex in a relationship, that's what this is about. But it's set in this... Do you get this album yet? Do you get why I'm like telling you it's so good? Does this not feel like a great short film or a great movie? Do you not picture yourself at a vacation Bible camp in... I'm now thinking it must be BBC. A vacation Bible camp, and like imagining this girl and this boy, and he's kind of an outsider and she's trying to save him. And then we have these lyrics: sedentary secrets like peach pits in your gut, locked away like jam jars in the cellar of your heart, waiting to be tasted and ultimately wasted. You were going to win me over from the start. Amazing detail that he writes terrible poetry, or she writes terrible poetry, right? That like she's trying to save this guy or this girl, and like he's just, or she's just kind of like okay, like not amazing, but just kind of an okay poet. Beautiful guitar solo in the post-chorus, then a really touching verse about how this person's father has to wear long sleeves, presumably because they're a junkie. And then you realize the whole song is about saving. It's about being saved. So that's why it has to be placed in the Bible camp, right? Because what is it that Christianity is trying to teach us? That we need to be saved, and that we can't be saved by Jesus, right? So we go to this whole verse that tells about the family tragedy. And what's great is she's a great lyricist because she knows how to be bad. So if you've ever written a paper and like don't use the same word in two sentences in a row, right? Like use a thesaurus or something. So she does it, and she's a very good writer, so it's clear this is an intentional little trick here. Your dad keeps his sleeve down through the summer for a reason. Your mother wears her makeup extra thick for a reason. When I tell you you were born and you are here for a reason, you are not convinced that the reason is a good one. The construction of this line is perfect. We have reason, reason, reason. Reason 1, junkie. Reason 2, wife beater. Reason 3, you were born for a reason. What's the reason? You were convinced the reason's not a good one. Take you out of the rhyme, take you out of the repetition, keep it very jarred, and we have this whole question. If we all are here for a reason, well, what's the reason? Especially if our life sucks. These are just some, that was way too big of a sip of coffee. These are just some of the reasons that this album is so strong, is that little kind of detail where it doesn't work. It's actually not well written. It's intentionally not well written to emphasize, is it a good one? Then there's beautiful dynamics where it's just the guitar and a voice until we discover that this person is, the only thing that makes them happy is listening to the music of Slayer at full blast, and they kind of do an imitation of Slayer, although it actually sounds more like Weezer than like Slayer. And it's just this beautiful, loud and quiet and sweet and sad song that just is able to paint such an evocative picture. And again, we have this thing where she is feeling compassion for this person. And what she's remembering is not her. What is her life like? What is she like? We don't know anything about her. Not in this song and not through most of the album. What we know, actually that's not true, we know a lot about her through the rest of the album, but in some of these songs, we know how she feels about someone else. So let's get to the first track. Let's start over. I'm now going to go through the rest of the album track by track. I don't know how long this video is going to be. But anyways, the first track is called Hot and Heavy. Musically, this reminds me a lot of like Echo and the Bunnymen, almost like a John Hughes theme song again, kind of chugging, sweeping guitars at certain points, simple piano lines, and just this whole idea, being back here makes me hot in the face. All about going back home, having these heavy memories, that's what she means by hot and heavy, right? And this young adulthood theme right off the start, like remembering being in the basement of your parents' place. Who's you? I don't know. I don't know who you is, but I do know that when I go back to my hometown, Belmont, Massachusetts, and I drive by, I don't know, my friend Brad's house, I remember playing basketball in his backyard, or the day that we destroyed all of his heavy metal cassettes with a ski pole and threw them out of his window. You know, like I remember all these weird things, and I could imagine that feeling like when you're thinking about your childhood, it is a weird mixture of innocence and corruption, because you're corrupt now and you were innocent then, and usually your childhood home is where you lost your innocence in the first place. It's just great. Bittersweet to see you again is another one of her great lines. You used to be so sweet, now you're a firecracker on a crowded street. Beautiful lyrics, really. Just some of the best lyrics I've heard all year. It's also kind of dancey. You can kind of dance around to it. Even though a lot of this is sort of folky and sort of muted, you can dance to this. The next track is called Christine. This isn't the one that made me cry, but we're getting close. The opening line to this, falling asleep on my shoulder in the back of your boyfriend's car. What an opening line. And the whole song is about coming back from a sermon with it being in here, and you realize that she loves her friend. I don't think romantically, I think just, friend. And her friend is probably going to marry this dude who's not so great. As it says in the chorus, he can be nice sometimes. Other nights, you admit he's not what you had in mind. All in all, nobody's perfect. There may be better, but you don't feel worth it. And that's where we disagree. You're getting close, Lucy. This almost makes me cry. We're so close there. But yeah, it may be better, but you don't feel worth it. And that's where we disagree. She feels so much for her friend. She's so there for her friend that she wants to break up this wedding, even though this woman wants to get with this guy and wants to have a baby. This is the tyranny of mediocre men, where she just has to accept this mediocre man. She has to accept a mediocre life because she fundamentally does not feel that she's worth more than that, right? Okay. The next track is called First Time, which appears to be about losing her virginity. Beautiful, weird electric sounds here, kind of a brutal indie guitar, doubled voice, very catchy melody, great layering all the way throughout. And you can dance to this. You know, you can kind of dance to this in the same way that you could sort of dance to, like, I don't know, like Smog, you know, like kind of indie rock dancing, you know. I would like to see this in concert. A great lyric. You can't feel it for the first time, the second time. And I think, you know, virginity songs are fascinating because it, you know, like when you do drugs the first time, I'm told, I don't do drugs, never have, but still, I understand. The first time you do a drug is great, and then the rest of the time that you do the drugs, it may be good, but you're always trying to capture that first time. Sex is not really the same way. Like the first time you have sex, it's usually kind of bad and uncomfortable, and often painful and embarrassing. I'm going to stop there. But then it gets better. So this idea of you can't feel it for the first time, the second time, is actually a good thing. It's a good thing you can't feel it. And the way that she paints this first time of being starfished on your kitchen floor, catch my breath to breathe your name, I'm just the fool you took me for. Beautiful lyric, very well done, very well written. We feel this sense of not shame, not embarrassment, but just this passage into less innocence. A great line here, has my face changed, baby? This is one of my favorite things about virginity and losing it, and this is something which I remember very much talking to my friends and my family about this kinds of stuff, is you feel like your entire face and that your entire that you just exude something different. Like, so that's what she's describing. Just, wow, man, this album is so good. It's really, really emotionally deep. Next song's called Cartwheel, just beautiful guitar and voice. And this is one of these descriptions of a divine friend. And this is another fascinating story. So it's about this friend of hers who's like, it seems like she maybe has a crush on her friend or is just in awe of her. Outgrew your older sister's clothes again, won't admit you're growing tall and thin. It's like your body is pulling at the seams. A beautiful line. And then the second verse is all about how her friend lost her virginity and how she feels betrayed that her friend has grown up. And this is another weird thing, okay? So like if we're going to be having all these songs about young adults going back home and feeling things, and by the way, this is not an old thing, okay? This is a new thing. I'm sure there before 2020s, there have been albums on this theme, but I just mentioned all these albums that are in the, you know, Eddie Vedder and Kurt Cobain weren't going back to their homes and writing album-long meditations on their childhood, right? They might have been angry or they might have said something that happened, right? But this wasn't, Mick Jagger wasn't going back to Squatney or whatever it was and writing entire albums about this, right? So this is a fascinating moment where she's describing the feeling of being betrayed by her friend growing up before she does. Pretty impressive. Okay. I'm ready. I've got to talk about the thumbs. Okay, so I am going to spoil this song. It's a sort of a narrative song, and I think it has a lot of strength. And I think it would mean a lot more to you if you heard her sing it than heard me sing it. So go find the song Thumbs by Lucy Dacus. And if you want to skip ahead, I don't know what time I'm going to stop, but I will change the angle of the camera. I'll just move it a little bit that way so that you know when I'm done talking about it. So this is a song about being in college and having a friend, and that friend is contacted by her estranged father that she hasn't seen for 17 years, okay? And accompanying that friend to that meeting. So it is really powerful because she's singing from the perspective of somebody who cares for her friend. We're going back to the song Christine, where she sees the value in her friend that her friend doesn't see in herself. And we have another one of these way too powerful, mediocre men, this time in the force of his father. And the details, so many crazy details that she throws in here. He ordered a Jack and Coke, and now I can't drink either. The detail, the reason it's called Thumbs is because she says, I would kill him if you let me. If you let me. Not I would kill him if you asked me. That's the most reasonable line. That's the thing that makes the most sense. I would kill him if you let me. Have you ever loved somebody and seen somebody hurt them? You know what I mean? Like when you really love somebody, as a friend, as a lover, or whatever, and somebody hurts them, you feel that. But then when somebody hurts you in the same way, you don't allow yourself that same anger. You need a friend or somebody who loves you to feel that way. This song is able to explain that bizarre, necessary triangle of life. The detail of these thumbs into the eyes, and then your nails digging into my knees. I don't know how you keep smiling. Her friend keeps smiling. I love your eyes, and he has them. Or you have his because he was first. We then get to the biological problem of the song, the biological root of what gives the song its strength. The whole time she's been talking about killing this guy by plunging out his eyes, and the reason why it's this method of death, it's not picking up the steak knife or cutting across his throat or drowning him in his Jack and Coke. It's about using the thumbs to go out the eyes because the eyes are the biological, hereditary transmission from father to daughter, which then gets to the outro. And this is the part which I think I can keep it together. I had like a 5-minute conversation. I'm not joking. I had like a 5-minute conversation with my wife upstairs where I was literally bawling, telling her I don't know how I'm going to talk about these lyrics without crying, but I can do it because I want to talk about art, not about me. I want to take your face between my hands and say, already so gentle, an amazingly gentle moment. You two are connected by pure coincidence, bound to him by blood, but baby, it's all relative. A little joke, but here we have this image of this woman and another woman holding her face. You've been in his fist ever since you were a kid, but you don't owe him shit, even if he said you did. You don't owe him shit, even if you say he did. This song is wicked important, okay? The concept that you don't owe your parents anything, not a goddamn thing, should be much more prevalent in our society. Your parents owe you love and respect, not the other way around. You didn't choose to be brought into this existence. Their well-being is not dependent on you. Your well-being is dependent on them. This is a song making that point. You just don't, I'm a father, I am a son, okay? As a son, for a long time, I thought I owed my parents so much because they birthed me, because I owe them this respect. No, they have to earn my respect. They have to earn my love. They don't just get it for nothing. And my kids, they don't owe me anything either. They really don't. They really, really don't. I have to work to earn that respect, to earn that love. I have to be a good father every goddamn day, and when I screw up and when I'm a bad father, I have to deal with that as well. They don't owe me anything. This whole concept of respect is just a vehicle for abuse. That's all it is. So let's destroy all of society and erase this concept that we owe our biological parents anything, and we might actually have a chance of having a good civilization because parents would feel obliged to care for their children and to earn their love and respect. I did it. I didn't cry. I got goosebumps, as I often do on this channel, but I didn't. But what an amazing song to be able to do that. What an amazing ability that she has to communicate something which desperately needs to be understood. There needs to be 100 songs about this theme because parents need to be better. Children need to be better to themselves. When parents treat you like shit, you feel responsible. That's the problem. That's why you end up with mediocre men and mediocre women, because you don't think you deserve better because you've been taught by somebody who doesn't care for you. That's what the song's able to do. Did you know I wasn't even going to review this album? I almost skipped right over it. My last video for Tyler, the Creator, is like doing the best any of my videos have ever done. Thank you everyone who's watching. 11,000 views. What the hell's going on here? Just getting to my head. I didn't know what I was going to review next. I was just going through. I wasn't planning on it. I wasn't looking forward to this album. I didn't know who Lucy Dacus was. And then all of a sudden, I'm finding some of the best lyrics I have heard in 3 years of doing this show. Next song, Going, Going, Gone. Sorry, I'm proud of myself. Sorry. I said I'd change the angle. Oh, people have been asking, what is that poster? That is Franz Kafka from the Franz Kafka Museum in Prague. I went there long time ago. And I got that poster. So that's what that is. It's not a painting. So the song, next song is called Going, Going, Gone, a beautiful kind of high school crush song. Very simple, like guitar and clear voice, but again, she does something amazing with the depiction of oppressively mediocre men. It's about flirting with this boy, and then 10 years later, he is grabbing asses, spilling beers. Another 10, he'll have a daughter. It's about how often men devolve, and how with this power that they have in society, that they can go from being kind of cute and sweet and flirty to becoming ass-grabbing monsters, to eventually becoming overprotective, manipulative parents who don't deserve the respect that they feel they're entitled to. Beautiful. And then it ends with this happy sounds of like people in a studio, and it has like this nice feeling of like them going, I think I got it. It's a nice little detail. Next song is called Partner in Crime. What? Hey. Hello, Lucy and whoever's producing your stuff? Yeah. What happened? Why is there auto-tune on this song? You're not going to tell me? Oh, okay. It's cool. I like the auto-tune. The auto-tune on this song is awesome. I don't think it's needed. I've heard you sing better than the auto-tune is singing here. Why am I pretending to talk on the phone? This is why I probably should have a script, not just notes. You'll see in my notes on Partner in Crime, it does not say pretend to talk on the phone like a bad comedy bit. I watch too much pitch meetings. But it's this really nice song, and I love the fact they use auto-tune. It does break up the album with audio, and it does explore the possibilities of auto-tune, you know. That's of all the things we have to thank Kanye for, the fact that he discovered how to play with auto-tune and auto in a heartbreak to make it its own instrument is really nice. It seems to be a song about like dating an older guy, or maybe an older woman, probably an older guy. It's sort of another sort of wistful memory song. You drop a hint you've got a girlfriend. I tried my best not to take it. I want to run my fingers through you. You say nobody understands you like I do. But it's pretty clear that she's singing from a naive place, that she doesn't actually know this person that well. It seems to be kind of a fleeting thing. A very great song. I'm very happy to have it electric. A nice electric song. The chorus reminds me a lot of Taylor Swift, very kind of poppy. Do you love me? Do you love me not? And then an amazing guitar solo on here. Kind of, again, sort of like a Neil Youngish guitar solo. Later, there's like just one note on the guitar repeated over and over again. This song has that kind of open feeling, that kind of sweet breath to it. That if you have a playlist for a road trip, put this on there, okay? Put this on there, because I could imagine driving through Wyoming or driving through rural Pennsylvania and listening to this song and just kind of like having that nice feeling. Next track we get to is Brando. This is where Professor over here is going to have to admit to being an oppressive, mediocre man. It is a song about a guy who convinces a girl to skip school to go see old movies at the movie theater. A nerdy dude hitting on a girl. Cool kind of underwater sound all the way throughout. It's electric, but like the drums sound like they're underwater. You called me cerebral. Would it have killed you to call me pretty instead? The whole song is about this guy who's kind of mansplaining. It's a guy who thinks he can impress a girl by being smart and by making references that he thinks she doesn't get, probably hoping to both confuse and bewilder her and also make her go, what does that mean? So that he can impose his amazing knowledge onto her. This was me. I'm this jerk in this song. If you're somebody who knew me between the age, if you're a woman who knew me between the age of 13 and 26, this is totally how I behaved. Because I thought I was ugly and stupid and all that, and if I sort of like talked enough about like old movies or books or this or that, and if I did it in a certain way, I would bewilder and enchant the women around me into thinking I was something I wasn't. I was a totally fine guy, but I didn't know that. If I'd just been honest, I probably would have actually managed to not enchant, but endear myself to people. But this is a very close to the bone song. And I like hearing it because it feels cathartic for me. I feel like I am getting absolved a little bit because I'm being called out retroactively. You know, I didn't grow up with Lucy Dacus. You know, I'm like 20 years older than her or something crazy, you know? But I definitely was this guy. And if you are a man and you're watching my channel, you have probably been this guy too. Probably, right? It's just a terrible thing that even good guys can fall prey to, right? And it's a kind of sexism, sort of internalized sexism that we have that we hopefully grow out of. So, great song. Please Stay. You probably thought this was the song that made me cry, because this is sort of a please don't kill yourself song. But I don't have a lot of experience with suicide. I'm lucky with that. I do have a lot of experience with people who have been severely abused psychologically, much more than physically, by their parents, and therefore need more support than they get. So this song didn't make me cry, but I think if you have experience with suicide, you may need some Kleenex brand tissue as well. It's just beautiful. Beautiful details in the beginning about your hair on the shower wall, and the song builds up from this piano and the voice, and it's dealing with somebody who wants to kill themselves but also wants to stay alive. And she gives all this list of things that you can do to feel better. I feel it's pretty connected actually with the Vacation Bible Camp song, because it feels very much like she's trying to save somebody, but this time she's not trying to save her with her love or with her guidance. She's just trying to say, like, don't. Like, please don't kill yourself. Which is a pretty good argument, right? Please don't kill yourself, you know, if not just for me. Then the song ends with Triple Dog Dare. I think this is the only song which concretely is a woman's attraction to another woman, I think. A nice, mournful, sweet double voice, lots of atmosphere on the song. This will probably be like the hit off the album. It's got like lots of good vocals in it. And it's sort of like, it's very Pedro the Lion as well. She even talks about going to the Five and Dime, which reminded me a lot of the song 7-Eleven off of Pedro the Lion. But it's cool because it's like about this girl who's in love with this other girl. And they're best friends, but she can't express it. She can't say it, right? This is a theme which I do feel I've heard several times in music, but not from a woman. I hear it more about men falling in love with other men. You know, like boys falling in love with other boys when they're kids. And the kid at the counter is gawking at your grace. I can tell what he's thinking by the look on his face. It's not his fault. I'm sure I look the same. It's what you do, but it's not you I blame. So like she's so enraptured by this girl that she's in love with her. And in the song, the mom figures it out. And she ends up having to beg, what can I say to your mom to let you come outside, right? Like the mom knows about this, even if the girl doesn't. And this whole thing about like this, remember I was talking about like, you know, the innocence, like how when you think about your childhood, you are always thinking simultaneously about innocence and loss of innocence at the same time. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about that right now. Like I didn't say that earlier, I was hinting at that, but now I'm realizing I'm just saying it, and it's actually a pretty profound point, so I'm gonna say it again. When you think about your childhood, you are always thinking about your innocence and the loss of your innocence. It's always together. And this song is so much about that, and it uses all, you know, triple dog dare is a thing that kids say to each other. I know I'll be seeking if you run and hide. I never touched you the way I wanted to. This kind of nice, sweet, queer love story about passing notes. The guitar comes in, it gets really epic and epic at the end, and it becomes this fantasy where they run away together and live on this girl's boat. I triple dog dare you over and over again. Whew. So that is the emotional powerhouse of an album that is Home Movies. I am very happy to have discovered it. I'm happy I happened to click on that. It makes me feel bad about all the albums I must be missing. You know, part of the reason I started this channel is because I'm an old man and I was thinking there's no more good music anymore. And I can tell you there's way more good music than somebody who does 3 album reviews a week can cover. I've done 3 album reviews a week for the past 3 years, and I've missed probably more good albums than I've reviewed. So it's a great time to be alive, which it always is. Please stay. Okay, well then, until next time, I hope that you enjoy this album. Oh, like my damn it. Like and subscribe. Smash the like bucket. Subscribe. It does matter to me. Please comment. 2. God damn it. My producer will be so mad. I'm my own producer. Okay. Oh, and this is my new thing. If you scanned here looking for a grade, I don't give grades. I give thoughts. There were my thoughts. There's the camera.